We're back on the NJ Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Antonia Rahman. I'm so excited about today's segment because we are going to primarily be speaking about staging your home. And sellers and homeowners, get ready because I have a special treat for you today. A lot of you I know are out there are trying to really sell your home. And you're finding yourself in a market that you're just saying to yourself, my home is not moving. I've had it on the market for 3 or 9 months. I've had no offers. What's going on? Well, this today's segment is really going to give you some great insight of why possibly could be the reason why your home's not selling. As we know that whenever someone is trying to sell their home, they have to have a specific presentation. I mean, when a buyer goes into a home, folks, okay, the buyer wants to see a house. They don't want to see a mess. Okay, they don't want to see garbage all over the place. Okay, they don't want to see that you've left beds undone. They don't want to see things like that. They want to see the house the way they want to perceive it to be if they were buying it and they were moving in. So I just wanted to share a story with you that came into us from a seller. And I tell you, folks, it's just amazing because um, this poor seller, I'm going to share his story today. Um, he has had his house on the market for 2 years. Do you know what it is to have your house on the market for 2 years? Oh my gosh, it's like you're on pins and needles as a seller, let me tell you. You don't know what else to do with yourself. Some people just, I tell you, they just want to give up. But anyway, this seller has had his house on the market for 2 years. Initially, when he had it on the market, he had it on the market for $496,000. He had a nice home. The home is only about 15 years old. Nice home in a nice area. And he really thought when he listed the property 2 years ago that he would get that price. That a lot of buyers would come through. He'd have offers up to the gazoo. But that wasn't the case. Why, folks? Because about 2 years ago is when we kind of started seeing a turn in the market. And the turn itself really started to hinder sellers. Houses they didn't start to move as quickly as they used to. Sellers now really found themselves competing with other sellers because there was now a lot of inventory that was coming on the market. And, in his situation with this seller, he just didn't think about all this. He didn't think this was going to hit him the way it did. He really was still he still thought we were at the market of like 4 years ago when people, when a seller used to put a house on the market about 4 years ago. Man, let me tell you, there would be an open house. You'd have like 25 people coming to the open house like quickly, instantly. People would be like punching each other out. I want this house. No, this is my house. No, I'm going to put in an offer. People would be like, my offer is 480. No, someone would be, no, my offer is 490. My offer is 500,000. People were just going crazy, folks. Outbidding each other, for properties. Let me tell you, it was a mess. But you know what? The seller was in glory land. They were like, yes, 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 I'm going on my Hawaii trip. Yes, I'm paying off this house. Yes, I'm going to buy another house in another state where it's a lot cheaper to get a house in another state. What can I tell you? Because we're in the state of New Jersey. We have high prices here and high taxes. And they left, with so much money in their pocket. They really profited about 4 years ago. Well, not the case 2 years ago. Okay, 2 years ago was when everything started to change. The market started to change. Sellers found themselves competing with their neighbors. That now there's just not one house on the block for sale. There's 10 houses on the block for sale, and it becomes very competitive. So this gentleman, he had listed his house for $496,000, and a couple of weeks passed by, nothing happened, no showings, no offers. He said, wow, he consulted with his realtor and said, what is going on with this property? She said, well, Mr. Seller, this is the situation. Remember when I came to the listing presentation and I told you, when you're really looking to sell your house, you really have to think like a buyer, okay? Because you were a buyer one time Everybody was a buyer at one time before they became a seller, basically. And when you were a buyer, you had to really kind of remind yourself, oh yeah, when I was a buyer, this is what I was looking for, this is what I wanted. So as a seller, you have to think the same way. Your thought process does not change because you have to really think about what people are looking for, in the market and in houses. So what happens? The listing agent told him, listen, remember the time I came at the listing presentation and I told you, listen, you have like 30 boxes, in the garage, they're taking up the space. People can't even really see the garage, You've got a lot of stuff because he was into some type of sports or whatever. So he has stuff all over the place. It's one thing to be in sports, folks, and have all your equipment and stuff, but put it in a corner in a neat section, Don't have it all over the place. Anyway, so she reminded him, remember I told you you should move them, try to put the boxes in storage or put them somewhere else, put them in your shed, because people, when they're looking for a house, they want to see the house. They don't want to see your mess. They don't want to see 100 boxes. They don't want to see, laundry on the floor. Bottom line. So what does this guy do? This guy says, well, he told the listing agent, well, we did have that conversation, but I totally forgot about it. Oh my gosh, and those boxes are still there. The stuff is still over the place. She said that could be a factor of why no one's putting an offer in a house. And most of all, that's just, that's really the second factor. The first factor is it's just way high in price. Because a lot of times sellers feel that they still have the same value on their home from 4 years ago today. And that is not the case, folks. Statistic wise, it has gone down tremendously. There are some sellers out there selling their houses for 50% less of what the value used to be. So with this particular seller, he said to the listing agent, I really need to do what I need to do because I got to get rid of this home. I've already moved on. I've already bought my other house at another state, and I can't have two mortgages. I'm dying. I'm drowning here. So the listing agent says, listen, let's do exactly what I asked you to do 2 years ago. Let's get rid of the boxes. Let's, declutter the place. Let's do what we have to do so it's more presentable, and that when buyers come in through there, to see the house, they're going to say, wow, this is a really nice house. I can imagine myself. Why sellers? Because a buyer, when they're looking at a house, the very first thing that they are envisioning is my couch going to fit in here? Is my bedroom set going to be okay in here? Oh, wow. You know what? I have some beautiful, whatever it is that they have, some beautiful vase or whatever. Is there enough room for me to put that? That's how buyers think when they're looking for a place, sellers. So you really have to be conscious about that. Think about it. You were a buyer at one time, and I'm sure you were looking for those things as well. So he told the listing agent, he's like, okay, what am I going to do? She said, well, first of all, we've only reduced, since that time, they had only reduced it once. And let me tell you, folks, you know how much he had only reduced it? $5,000. So he went from $496, okay, to, $491. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. Just lowering it $5,000. I mean, what type of result do you really think you're going to get in 2 years just lowering it that little? So he asked the listing agent, listen, at this point, I need out. What do I need to do? She said, you need to be at, this was horrible, but this is the truth. You need to be at this point competitive with your other sales in the area and what the comparables actually. You need to be at this point at 295. 295. Could you imagine that, folks? 295. He's going from 496, 491 now to 295. You had to see the guy. The guy's face just like dropped to the floor. He was like, "You gotta be kidding me!" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, it was like $200,000 less." She said, "Well, this is where the market's at, and with all the short sales that are taking place, with some of the foreclosures that are about to happen, people are desperate and people have reduced tremendously, and this is where you're at. So what do you want to do?" So he thought about it. He said, well, you know what? At this point, I really don't have a choice. I'm probably going to have to be where I'm at. You know why, folks? Because let me tell you something. He had bought that house 15 years ago, and he was selling it for that price, but he bought it for dirt cheap. He bought that house for dirt cheap. I'm not going to tell you how much he bought it for, because if I told you, you'd be like, wow, this guy, he's greedy. So we don't want to give the seller that perception that he was greedy, but he just really wanted to make a big profit. Well, this is not the market to make a profit, folks. It just is not. It is all people only profit from this market right now if they bought their house very, very cheap and they never refinanced their house. Okay, they didn't take out equity loans. They didn't put anything else against the house, and they only owe that small mortgage. They're the only ones right now that are profiting, and the majority of the people really are not falling into that pool in this market. Majority of people have bought at the high end time, and they're suffering. So he told the listing agent, okay, at this point, I don't have a choice. Let's do it. Let's just do it because I want to give it. Well, folks, I'll have you know, okay, they put it down to 295, and in 1 week, I'm not lying, in 1 week, about 10 people went to see that house, and he had several offers. Why? Because now he was at the price he needed to be at. And you know what, sellers? I'm going to tell you something. I know we all have that dream, We all want to have a lot of money. We want to still profit, But that's not what's happening right now in this market. If you can sell your house for whatever price you can sell it for, whether it's a short sale or just a regular, what I call a regular straight sale now, which is very hard to come by, okay? If you can sell your house and just walk away clean, or just walk away with a couple of dollars in your pocket, well, count your blessings and walk away with it. Don't complain about it, because there's so many sellers out there that are actually losing their homes to a foreclosure. But if you can avoid a foreclosure and you can move on, that is the best thing that you can do in this market. So for that seller, I just wanted to share that story because that's what's happening with a lot of sellers. A lot of sellers are still like in La La Land, They really think that they can get 4 year ago prices in today's market. You cannot. You cannot. So when we come back from this commercial, I have on my left with me Rhonda Smith, and on my right is Patty Marcum.
Hello.
And they are the great team from First Impressions, which is a staging company in Mount Holly, New Jersey. And they're here with us today to talk to us about staging your home to sell. And I know homeowners and sellers that you must be so excited because a lot of sellers I know out there are struggling. And you're trying to see what can you do differently to possibly sell your home. Well, Rhonda and Patty are going to tell you today exactly what it is that you need to do. Thank you so much for being on the show, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Could you tell us a little bit about your company?
I sure can. Rhonda and I, we have been in real estate for combined years of about 15 years now. And when we started out in the real estate world, we were agents, such as yourself. And we ended up about 5 years ago, we were at the real estate convention. And while we were there, we walked past a booth that had home staging, and we took some information and we decided we wanted to go to school for it and be trained to help our sellers. So what we ended up doing was being trained by Barb Schwartz, who is the creator of home staging, and she is in California. And what a lot of people don't realize is that home staging has been around since the early 70s.